Swiss banking was once the centre for offshore banking. What's the current situation on the ground, and what is the core now of Swiss banking?
Well, the industry has certainly gone through kind of a long period of soul searching and looking for a new identity after Secrecy now is no more. And that's certainly still ongoing. What we do see sort of on the ground is that the industry has just become more modest. Revenues are lower, profits are smaller, regulation, things like that costs more. So it's a more modest and a smaller industry than it was maybe 10 or just 15 years ago.
So the end of banking secrecy, is that a death to the industry?
It was certainly a huge setback for Switzerland, but I think they have a plan and they're managing to adjust to this kind of what they call a post-secrecy reality. And in fact, it's actually not just the end of banking secrecy. There's a couple other really quite hefty factors that are playing into it, and a big one is digitization. So you see a lot of new emergence in the private banking market, and they can do what private banks have been doing for years, but they can do it quicker and more cheaply. So that's a big threat to the industry. And you're also seeing just the plain effects of globalization, the rise of the global citizen who maybe doesn't live in Switzerland, maybe doesn't want his money managed only in Switzerland, but has interests in other countries like the UK, maybe his kids are being educated in Singapore. So Switzerland really needs to adjust, and the banks need to adjust to that reality of the more global citizen as a client.
So why can't Swiss banking just grow more abroad instead of at home?
It's a good question, and in fairness, they have been trying to do that for many years with kind of varied degrees of success. I think some of the expansion abroad has, first of all, been quite costly, although the Swiss banking industry does see that as absolutely a worthwhile effort. Also, it's not been without kind of certain troubles. In this rise of transparency, we're seeing things like tax amnesties and foreign authorities wanting this confidential data in other places as well. So that's quite a real threat to any private banking industry anywhere. And also expansion abroad has also brought a whole new set of challenges in kind of maybe less developed markets, such as in Latin America, where we've seen some quite prominent scandals that Swiss private banks have been involved in.
Now, Swiss banks have paid the US around $10 billion to settle some scandals. Is the wave of penalties over?
Well, the 10 billion figure was obviously attached to the big US tax case, which was a really huge landmark case in the industry. I would say, yes, that was a huge one. I wouldn't say that it's quite over. The fact that the US had such a big success in really getting some restitution for those accounts that Swiss banks held on behalf of Americans, hiding their money from the IRS effectively, has encouraged some other places in Europe, for example, to try similar things. So I don't think Switzerland is quite out of the woods in terms of penalties. We won't maybe see such a big wave of that magnitude as we did in the US, but it's certainly not over for Swiss private banking.
Now, when I think of Swiss private banking, I associate it with the luxury life living. Is the good life finally over for private bankers?
I don't know. It's certainly got a little bit tougher. I don't know if the good life is over. I think the job has also evolved very, very much. If you used to be more of a portfolio advisor, maybe in your strictest form a stock picker, which was really sort of numbers crunching, looking at valuations and things like that, I think now you need to be a lot more of a holistic advisor, and you need to think about the client in terms of his family, his dreams, his aspirations, and his plans, and then figure out where his finances fit into that, and then ultimately what is a private banker that you can do for him or her. And that also has a lot to do with, for example, lifestyle choices. We've seen a lot more awareness, for example, about gender diversity in private banking. So, for example, catering to women, who of course are half of the world's population, or to, for example, the LGBT community. These are all things where the job is very, very, very much changing.
Well, thank you so much, Katharina Bart, for joining me in the studio today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you at home for watching. Don't forget to click back to Dukascopy TV for more interviews like this.